If you have an unquenchable thirst to crush your bucket list, relentlessly pursue your dreams, and live life on your own terms, then turn up the volume and tune in. You're now listening to Zeph and Moses Blacksburg on the Year of Purpose podcast.
This episode of the Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. Zeph and Blacksburg here with another episode of the Year of Purpose podcast. And today, I can't talk. I'm joined by Ryan A. Bell, and Ryan is the founder of Periscope Summit. He's the recipient of the Presidential Award for his volunteer work with the Special Olympics and the Youth in Oakland. He's a writer for the Good Men Project, Green Child Magazine, and branding and marketing specialist for companies wanting to migrate to live streaming. He also happens to be the most connected man on Periscope, and today he's hanging out with me. What's going on, Ryan?
You just made me sound really good. Thanks, man. Like, wow. I'm just chilling in a WeWork office, a shared space with nobody around. It's pretty cool.
Good stuff. And so I heard you just moved. You had a pretty big move, and we just met recently at the podcast summit about a month back in Texas. And I thought that it would be cool to kind of have you on and chat a little bit about what it's like to leave behind the suit and tie world and, what's next.
What's next is what I make it. But the suit and tie world, like just having that discussion, I can feel the tendons between my neck and my shoulder, like those balls right there just tense up and try to come together. Yeah, I left the Enterprise. I feel like Captain Picard when I say that. I left the Enterprise, man, because it was just crushing my soul, like with cleats on. And so I'm really happy with what I'm doing right now, and even though it's so much harder than what most people think of as actual work.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I actually posted this screenshot the other day of just what my typical calendar looks like. And the screenshot shows that pretty much yesterday from 8:30 in the morning until about 11 o'clock at night, like I'm hustling. And it's multiple things in a row. There's a lot of multitasking going on, but trying to find the time for, those breaks to have coffee with a friend. The co-working space I work out of has a massage chair, so I always try to schedule in like 15 minutes to jump in there. Even if I'm taking, a client call from somebody, they'll ask why my voice sounds weird because I'm like in the massage chair, and I'm like, oh, I'm just, it's loud in here. I don't know.
Yeah, isn't it an awesome feeling though when you like at noon, you look at your calendar, you look at like your to-do list and what you've checked off, and you're like, holy shit, I've just done 40 hours of work.
Yeah.
I've done what usually would be a week's worth of work for what I would have done in the past, and I've just done that. But of course, we're up. I'm up at 6 o'clock. It's 6:30 here right now. Nobody else is around. Just gotta hustle, man. Make those extra hours and squeeze in emails. And I mean, an entrepreneur works from the toilet. Like you're sitting there like sending out emails, and you're like, well, no time's a wasting.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say that because I learned this from Gary Vaynerchuk. So he has a couple of like tech blog apps where he'll just read up with the news just to catch up with what's going on in the world. And he says, like, I have 5-minute meetings. I never have meetings longer than that. When I'm sitting on the toilet, I'm reading these blogs. And so I took that advice from him. When I'm sitting on the toilet, I have certain websites where like that's where I get my news from, and that's how I know what's going on in the world. So I'm not wasting my productive time throughout the day with sitting there trying to watch the news and getting sucked into the latest shooting or the latest court case that's going on.
Yeah, I remember years back when I was a kid, there was those Uncle John's bathroom readers. There were these huge compilations and now we just bring our phones in, and we're painting such a beautiful picture for your audience today of everybody researching on the John.
This is the real side of entrepreneurship though. And I remember the Uncle John's readers. My stepdad, I used to make fun of him because he would stack up like 9 or 10 of them in front of the toilet and he'd
Those are
spend
great.
hours in there. And I always wonder what took him so long. And then finally I went to the bathroom downstairs that he always used and there's 10 of these books that are like as thick as a Bible sitting there. Like that's why, because he's sitting there reading this stuff.
No wonder you know so many factoids, you
Right.
know?
And the funny thing is, all my friends know me as the one person who's like filled with the most useless facts in the world. So I probably got that from those books. But I'm curious, what type of a job were you working in, and what originally had you interested in it? Because I know for me personally, like I was raised to think you go to college, you get a job, and you hold it for ever, and you save for retirement. And that's what you do.
The manicness of my life actually built me as an entrepreneur. I went to college and didn't know what I was going to be, so I tried to be everything. And oh my gosh, I started out my life. I thought I was going to be a writer. I was a published and award-winning poet. I wrote songs for people. I wrote a song for the Zach Brown band that got their first like radio play. I did all this stuff, and then I went into sales. I sold BMWs. I sold tech. I sold metrics, and then I started working with. I was like regional director for something, and then I was selling like HR services, and then I was helping businesses to grow, and I just did all these things, and eventually I was like, why am I doing all these things for other people? And I'm growing all these things for other people that I just don't damn believe in. And so then I just kind of started helping smaller companies and trying to figure it out on my own and consulting and cobbling stuff together and making $150 for making a website or $200 for writing an article or whatever until finally all these tiny little streams of income equaled up to be enough. And that's kind of when I had proof of concept. I was like I can do this. I can make this work, and eventually, I'm now here in this world where I'm working my ass off still. But there's so many things that I own now that are my property that I'm building that I'm behind that I can see I can visualize what's going to be the future. And I think of those things as properties, and I'm like this is what's going to work.
So I have to ask because I think that all entrepreneurs kind of come into a moment, uh, and I had this a lot recently because I was working towards. I built a virtual summit. I had 41 people on it. I'm in the middle of writing my book. I'm 20,000 words in. I've got my podcast going every single week, and none of this was the stuff that made me money yet because it's all been a passion, like a side project that eventually I'll grow, but it's a very slow process. So I've got my video business is my only income generating full-time thing right now. And I've had these days where I'll sit there and I'll kind of take a step back and I'm like, this is the day that I could quit. Like I could give it all away right here, right now, and just completely give up on myself and say screw it and go back to someone making my schedule for me and go back to not having the freedom to hang out with people in the middle of the week or do the things I want to. So like what is it that keeps you going and sitting here at 6:30 in the morning in California and being able to keep pushing for it?
Yeah, it's weird. In Santa Monica at 6 in the morning, it's dead. There's nobody around. Like my family is the catalyst for me leaving the enterprise was when my first daughter was born, honestly. I came alive when my first child was born. And I just realized that I couldn't live like this lie. Maybe I had a Caitlyn Jenner moment or something, but I just, I felt so uncomfortable, and I just started to like when I went home, I just had this moment that I was like, I'm a liar. I'm a I'm a fucking liar. Sorry to go explicit on you, but like I had that thought so many times, and now every time it gets really hard, and I'm in a hard part right now because I'm 20 days out on a big event, and we're waiting for money from sponsors, and we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and right now I feel like I have no Peter, pun intended. You like that one? That's new.
That's pretty good for 6 o'clock in the morning.
Pretty good for 6 o'clock. I'm sharp. I'm sharp. I may talk slow, but I think fast. Um, oh my gosh. So I just had to do it because I was so cloistered. I felt the suit enveloping me, and I felt the tie choking me, and I felt um, the fluorescent lights burning me and the cubicle closing in. And each time now that I have hard times, I think about what I'm building for my family, and that one day my daughter will be able to say something about what I do instead of, I can't imagine if I had that job selling like HR services or something, and then being with my daughter and somebody saying, "What does your father do?" I just knew that that question would stab me in the gut and I'd crumble. I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, I can't live this thing where I'm a husk and where I'm always ready to crumble.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, that's no way to live your life. And in the long term, I mean, that's going to destroy you probably much quicker than you'd even expect. So
Yeah.
and I mean, is this corporate world in general? Is this working for other people in general? Like what?
No, 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 no. I've had many really good jobs, but luckily for me, the last job that I had was just the one that was just such a terrible fit for me. It had all the metrics. Like for instance, I went into work one time, and to differentiate myself, to be the rebel, I was wearing a cardigan with a tie. I was wearing a friggin' cardigan, right? And I was like looking all dapper and Mr. Rogers ish. And then a memo came out later that day that we could no longer wear cardigans. No, no, no cardigans. And so the memo was basically directed completely at me and came from my boss's boss, who who had five bosses above him, who had three bosses above him. I'm not even lying. And then who had two bosses above him and one major boss above him who had a board of 12 people. And I was like, there's a no cardigan rule now because of me, a no cardigan rule. And I just remember being like, you freaking bastards, you guys are just freaking awful.
Yeah. That was I think that's a big piece that hits a lot of people hard is when they can't make an impact or a change in a company because the way the chain of leadership is. It's you have to go to somebody else who has to email somebody who has to call somebody who has to fax a person halfway across the world just to find out if you're allowed to scratch your neck while you're sitting at your desk.
I know, I know, I know. And it's funny because like right as we were talking about this, do you know who Brian Fanzo is?
No, I can't say I've met him before.
He's iSocial Fans. He he
Okay.
he he does a lot of keynote speeches, and he's really smart. He's worked with the Twitter data science team, and so as we're talking, a text just pops up on my computer that says, "You got time to chat today? I might have a gig you're interested in." Stuff like that would not happen to me if I was sitting there tethered to some stupid desk. You know. and so I got that text, and I don't know what that means. That could mean a few $1,000s. That could mean I've got an engagement with Verizon. I don't know, but
Yeah.
like those are the things that pop up for me, that are really fun. And I've been able to work. The cool thing is I go and work with the enterprise. I go to SanDisk headquarters, but I go because they call me, because they want me for something, because I can move their needle because of who I know and what I'm building for them. That's exciting. Do you talk to people that are excited about their jobs? Yeah, I know you do because you talk to entrepreneurs. You talk to me. I'm excited about what the hell I'm doing. And no matter how hard it gets, you know what? I'm learning. I'm learning. And every time I fail, I build off of those bones. Every time I fail, everything that I've built, no matter how ugly it is, it's a foundation for the next thing that might be pretty. And that next thing, even if that thing's ugly, I'm going to build off of that. I'm going to build off the knowledge that I got from building that.
That's a really good way to go because we're going to have a lot of failures. I mean, it's inevitable that, you're going to do a lot of things and they're going to suck. And you're going to pull something away from that to take it to the next thing, and it might make that better. It might not be perfect, but it'll make it better. But so how do you go from, like, what happens in between kind of transforming from the suit and tie to being able to work for yourself? I mean, a lot of people just say, okay, so what you're saying is if I quit my job and I wake up
Mm.
tomorrow, I'd start making money. Like, how does that work?
No, no, that doesn't work. For me, I was able to take paternity leave, and that's where that came. So during the time that I was on paternity leave, which is in California, it's 12 weeks, so we get a long time. And each day that came, I was further away. I wasn't being inundated with work. I was taking care of a child, and I really kind of got to know myself a little bit more because I wasn't being pinged. I wasn't answering to anyone. And I started writing more, and I started feeling more myself. And I had this time to kind of try and transition my thought processes. And I realized that I was wearing like camouflage pants and t-shirts like every day. That was like my thing. Because when you're a dad, you've got camouflage pants to kind of hide all of the detritus that gets on your pants and everything, all the little stains and stuff. And I'm like, so I started writing again, and I hadn't written since I was like early 20s, like for money. And I was like, I'm gonna write some dad blogging stuff. And I was like, hey, I'm making a little money off of this, and I'm enjoying this. And the each time I made a little bit of money doing something, it made me realize that I could do things that I enjoyed. So my wife, who is an absolute rock star, I mean, she and I have built this life together, and she makes good money when she works. She's an occupational therapist, and so we we cobbled together this thing where she was working like Monday through Wednesday, and I was working full time on this, and not bringing in as much money, but we were poor. We were, I mean, not poor, not like poor, but we were thrifty. We were very thrifty to make it happen. We had recently refinanced the house to pay off her student loans, and we had a little extra money there too from that. And so as we chipped away at it, it started that I think we had 30 grand left. It was something like 30 grand. And as that 30 grand went down, it started to slow the going down process of it, and then it started to go back up. And I remember when that needle hit back going the upwards direction. I mean, it got real close to the bottom. You know what I mean? And I'm like, because an entrepreneur knows the hell out of credit cards. You know what's going to happen. You're like, okay, this 18 months is going to last another 3 months. Look at you. Yes, that's we.
So
So
for everyone listening real fast, because this will go on YouTube so you can see it, but for everyone listening, I just pulled out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 credit cards. and just flashed them real quick. This is
Yeah.
actually because my identity was stolen about a week ago, so these are like me getting my life back.
They do look like nice and shiny and new. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And now we're still investing money into things, but it's money that we have and into things that actually have value, um, and are recognized. So it's very stressful, but I do see an end in sight where I will not be working so hard to build this. But I know me, I'll have something that's working well on its own, and then I'll start building something else that'll stress me the F out. It's just the way I am.
And I think that I probably do that same thing too, because I'm always questioning, like, why is it that I do these things to myself? Because everybody around me thinks that they can never accomplish it or never do it. And it's like, you just have to embrace the fact that it's going to suck really badly for a little while. And then ultimately it's going to pay off. And I think that's kind of like the theme around entrepreneurship is, being willing to put up with some really crappy stuff for a while, knowing that if you just keep working at it, it's going to pay off. And so, you've kind of fallen into a pretty cool place with Periscope, which is a new app that came out, probably only like 6 months ago, right?
I think that's right around the time. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a new, I guess it's a social network in a sense, that allows people to live stream video of themselves. And this is something that you've kind of taken on recently. And so maybe talk a little bit about, where are you now? Like, what is Ryan doing? What's going on in the world of Ryan and in Periscope, and how can money be made doing things that you can have fun doing?
So I put together Periscope Summit, and as this recording is hitting, we're less than 20 days away from the event itself. And yeah, Periscope is, like you said, a live streaming app owned by Twitter. And in 6 months, it's gotten more downloads than Facebook or Instagram I think any other app that I know of. 13 million downloads, I believe, is the last metric, which I'm quite positive is a very low estimation by them. All people tend to come out low, but yeah. So by putting together Periscope Summit, which is an event, I became very quickly recognized as the most connected man on Periscope because I know how to get in touch with people. Like right after I get off this, I'm being pinged by Alex Kahn. I'm being pinged by, I've got to talk to the people at Howard Stern. I've got to talk to all these people that, are going to are already have huge relevance or will have relevance in the future. And that's where the real value is for me. Like when I started this, I didn't really want to be a public figure. I didn't want to be speaking at Podcast Movement. I didn't want to be on a bunch of podcasts. I didn't want to have a lot of interviews. And I realized pretty quickly that if I was getting somebody else to talk about my vision, then it was going to get watered down. And that game of telephone was just incorrect. And so I realized that I had to start using myself as my own tool. So now I'm a big tool. Everybody knows me as a big tool, right, Jared? So like that's where I'm at. And the New York event is the precursor to something larger. The San Francisco event will be more along the lines of a red carpet event mixed with tech. So it's going to be more along the lines of awards and stuff like that. So we're going to go. We're going big with everything. Maybe a little bit too big, honestly. But I think we need to plant that flag. When I started this, so I can tell you this quick story because it's important. When I started Periscope Summit, I was just regular old Periscope guy. I was just like doing my own broadcast, and I had the idea to put together this award show. And I was talking about it on a scope, and I was like, think, this is a really good idea. And everybody on my scope. This is when I had like 700 followers or something like that. I don't have huge amounts of followers now. Like I have 6,000. But it was like, it got back to me 3 days later that some C-level exec was talking about my idea, and it had gone through the grapevine, and it was on the long weekend. It was on Memorial Day weekend, and I was like, oh God, if the enterprise takes this from me, then it's going to be watered down and it's not going to be as good. And so that weekend, I came up with the idea to go too big to fail. So without anything, I reached out to basically every major live streaming person, like from Grant Cardone to Euromaestro to Amanda Oleander, and I came up with this roster of people. And then I announced on Tuesday that we were going to have this event, and I put together a team. At that time, I had a team of 4 people. Yeah, 4 people. And yeah, that Tuesday, like I worked, I think 18 hours a day from Friday until Tuesday, and then released a website with all these people that were going to be speaking and all this stuff. Didn't even have a space or anything, but yeah, it was crazy, and it's been a lot of work ever since, because we're not just dealing with talent. We're dealing with emerging talent that's never been talent before, so they don't realize like that they that they don't realize a lot of stuff in that industry.
Sure. I mean, they don't know how to be in front of a huge audience like that.
Right. Yeah, I keep telling people, like, I'm like, you can't be a keynote speaker. Like, you just can't. You've never done that before. You know how hard it is speaking in front of an audience? Like, it's not like you're talking to a picture of yourself with hearts on it and a little number that says 200 people on it or 1,000 people on it. It's completely different. Getting up on a stage, I mean, I've been up on stage multiple times, and getting up at podcast movement in Texas, that was scary. That was a big audience, and I mean, it was a big stage. It's always scary, and if you don't have any of that experience or expertise, then it's just not going to work.
Yeah, and it takes time. It's a process, and you build it up over time, and it's pretty cool to see the journey that you've taken from suit and tie to where you are now. And here you are. You said, is it 20 days out from the event?
Yeah, I think it's 20 days out.
So we're something like 20 days out from your next big project, and to see how far you've gone in that period of time is quite amazing. And so maybe just to round this all off, what are kind of your final words of wisdom just for anyone who might be kind of stuck in that position with the suit and tie and just feel like they're being choked?
Think about what you want to do before you leave what you're doing. And I think one of my best pieces of advice that I've learned over and over again is learn when to let things go. I've built a castle on failures, and some of them I've held on to for too long. Some of them were just not good and not working. But if you're sitting there in like your cubicle, and you have a friend that's doing something, ask them. You don't realize how accessible some of these people are. That you admire so much, and how much like you they are, and how much less money that they have in their bank than you do. You have to be prepared for those skinny months, and maybe even those skinny years. It's hard as shit. Speaking of skinny, when I was working at that atrophying job, is that even a word? I believe I was 218 pounds at my heaviest. And right now I'm probably 180. I live on coffee and bananas, and I read the tech news on my phone on the toilet. I don't have time to eat. So be prepared to lose weight and and lose your money and your mind, but do it because it's worth it. If you have an idea and you have a dream, uh, it's going to eat you away. It's going to be this weird little cancerous bug that's going to just gnaw at your gut until you do something.
I think that's the best way to round out this episode, man. I mean,
I'm kind of black and bleak and dark, aren't I, man? I'm so sorry, audience.
no, but like, I mean, this is the honest truth behind it is that, you better want this. If you don't want the suit and tie, you better figure out what it is that you do enjoy, and you better want it bad enough that you're willing to, be up at 6 o'clock in a co-working space, be willing to work the 18-hour day. And so I guess the only thing I would add to this is that this is not what the rest of your life looks like. Like you in 5 years from now are not going to be in this same position, and that's the greatest part about this is put in the hustle now, and later you're going to be sitting in the castle,
Yeah.
And so I think that's the best way to think about it is it's not necessarily dark, but it's the truth. And that's one of the big things that I like to reveal here is that, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up a millionaire. You don't wake up with the mansion. You don't wake up with the car the next day. And even those people who won the lottery, you can watch the TV shows, it destroys their life. So the people who do wake up one morning and become rich, it doesn't work. It doesn't last.
Yeah.
And so I think that I applaud you for, having the courage to share this with everybody and really to show them the real side of entrepreneurship and what it's like.
It's dark and dirty, people.
And then it pays off though, right?
And then it pays off. Oh my gosh. Yes. Like as soon as I get off here, I'm going to see what my next gig that I didn't know was. I'm in the process right now of being like, I have to really segment my time and be like, okay, this is how much I'm going to get paid. And since I'm in California and I've got clients in Florida, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to do an engagement that starts at 5 a.m. my time so that I can get a few $100s before my actual workday starts. So like each hour, if it's $100 or $200, that's a little more pate on my baguette. What am I talking about? Sorry, I don't know what just happened. I don't eat, so.
Yeah, I think you're going a little crazy without those calories, man.
Hey, let me go get my daily banana and coffee.
This sounds good. What is the best way for people to keep in touch with you, to check out, the Periscope stuff, and what's your username for all that?
Everything is Twitter. Like I've set up everything to be that infrastructure. At Ryan_A_Bell. I've dissolved all brands and it's just me. There is of course an at Periscope Summit handle, and there is periscopesummit.com, and my wonderful social media team makes beautiful peripherals around that, and I add to that as well. So yeah, follow me on Periscope and DM me and tweet me and retweet me and all that good stuff. Because yeah, don't go on Facebook. That'll be that's crickets for you guys. You don't want to do that.
Cool, man. Well, if there's someone out there, an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to create a business that sends bananas and coffee via Twitter, be sure to follow Ryan_A_Bell and send this man a couple of McMuffin sandwiches for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I need to eat.
Cool,
It's been a
man.
pleasure, man. It's been really, really awesome being on your show. I appreciate it so much. Have a good one.
All right, you too. This episode of The Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. I've discovered what I think is the world's most effective process to design your path in life. It'd be a shame if I didn't share it. In Life Rescripted, you will discover the #1 strategy for determining your life purpose and how you can start a new path today. the 5X life hack rule for accomplishing your dreams and designing your life on your own terms 5 times faster, the ultimate solution for fear and how you can leverage it right now to make this year your best year yet, and so much more. Reserve your spot in line to get a free copy at www.liferescriptedbook.com, and I will see you in the next episode.